up, you guys? Happy Thursday. All right, it is late for us. And
I feel like we just went out all night long and this is the last call. It's 7 o'clock.
And we're sadly very old. I stayed up last night till 10:30, which is a terrible choice in my world because I go to bed at like 8 o'clock. So a little bit tired today. Did my first Reiki session, which was fantastic and so much going on. So I feel a little like out there tonight. So if my words don't make sense, don't mind me. That's what it was. If you've never done one and you're in Thornton, Christy is amazing. I'll post her info. It's awesome.
Nate, always appreciate you, buddy.
So we're going to talk about today, what is the big picture and how do you make sure that you can keep your eye on the big picture and on where you want to go without taking actions every day that maybe set you back from that place. Is that a good description?
Yeah. That works. Okay. So it basically comes from an interaction we had with a client we're working with who's getting ready for their sports season coming up. And they younger athlete. And so they just started up at the gym. And so it's their first week back into training and everything else. And, we go through our assessment, go through our normal Q&A and everything else before we get started. And they were going through the training session today, like, my back again. And I was like, wait a minute, we didn't discuss this or distinguish this while we were going through our initial protocol with everything that we do. What's going on, right? I'm like, oh no, I've just had this back thing. I got this history of it. I'll just try to do what it is, right? So as it progressed, like it was immediately like, we've done this long enough to be like, yeah, that's not going to work for us today. Like, don't worry, we'll change plan. We'll pivot, right? Like allow yourself to pivot, not necessarily be married to the one track that you're going on. Allow yourself to be a little more flexible in your plan. And hopefully over the last 3 months, you've been able to adopt that philosophy a little bit better, right? And so going through that, and we did some other things that possibly going on, so a little bit of more of identifiers of what he could be experiencing and why he tends to have these things constantly come up. And so, afterwards, we discussed, and he basically, and this has happened quite a bit, right? Like this is something that isn't just he experienced. This is something that we see often with clients that walk in our door, of whether it be working with on the emotional, mental piece of everything or on the physical aspect of training is, well, this was the plan for the day, so we're going to change it up a little bit. And the first thing that follows that usually is, oh, I'm sorry. Right? Like it's the apology of like something's wrong and I'm causing this, right? And so first off, it's kind of taking a step back of looking, okay, where is that coming from first and foremost? Like this journey is yours to be had and we're here to work together on this plan. Why do you feel like you need to be sorry of what's going on, right? And it's like, well, where does that experience come from? And we, had a talk and everything else, and like everyone has their philosophy as far as coaching goes, but our philosophy is we're here to work with you and work alongside you, not as dictators from like behind the room of like, do is exactly what I told, and if this is the plan and you deviate from it, you're failing, right? Like our goal here and what we still illustrated to him is, especially for his season coming up, our job as coaches is to get you healthy so you can perform at your best, right? And like, that's what we do with anything, right? Like it doesn't matter what your goal is, whether it's to create a billion-dollar business, to be the best parent possible, to get ready for a competition, whatever it may be, is our goal is to help you arrive in that scenario at the best realm that you could possibly be, right? And so it was allowing that conversation to kind of evolve and really allow him to really understand that those reasons why those things are happening for a reason, right? Like, and what we tend to do is we let our aspect of masculinity come across to there, like, right? I'm just going to be tougher during this end. Like, no, I'm not going to be a baby. I'm not going to be a pussy. I'm not going to be whatever else you label it as, right? Like, I'm going to be tough. I'm going to go through this. And it's like, well, this has happened more than this one time, right? Like your body's trying to talk to you and you neglecting it and just saying like, you know what? I'm not going to be weak right now. I'm going to strive through this thing is not going to serve you. Yet again, right now we're in training. This is not competition or your sport. So there's two way different things of that, right? And so in lieu of that is it's understanding that looking at the big picture, right? It's understanding that when we do certain things, there's reasons for it. When things happen, there's reasons for it. And we cannot make change until we identify and actually discover the root cause of what's going on and fix the problem or the issue at its root, right? Like for him, it's dealing with what's going on surrounding his back. For other people, it's surrounding why they choose certain foods. For other people, it's why they turn to alcohol. For some people, it's why they constantly find themselves in the same relationship, right? We need to identify the root cause of what's going on and rip that root out from that point, not just constantly just kind of brush over. Because that's the thing we see a lot with people that enter our door is, well, I've worked with coaches and stuff in the past, or I've worked with professionals, and they help me identify in this moment, okay, I can think, okay, I'm about to do this thing, and my word there is stop, right? Like I just need to see this stop sign and just tell myself to stop. Okay, that's great. That's bringing awareness and maybe allowing you to identify it, but you're still not fixing the problem at its root. So you may see the thing going on there, but typically you're going to substitute it and evolve into something else in your life, right? So you can stop it at that point, but that means it's going to shift over to something else typically. So what we need to do is really take a step back, look at the big picture of what's going on, and really see, okay, what is the root cause and how can we fix it from the root so this doesn't come back up ever again?
Right. And I think it's interesting because obviously I did a Reiki session. If you guys don't know what that is, it's energy work, right? And so essentially it's aligning your chakras, it's understanding your energies, and like from all of that is where dis-ease, which is disease or pain in your body or all of that stuff, comes from mental emotional stuff. So it's really interesting when you talk. It's really funny because my assessment was that I'm not very grounded. So like I don't have roots, like good roots. So it's funny because he said the word root like 17 times. And I'm like, I get it, universe, I get it, right? But what we want you guys to understand is that there's always something deeper, right? It doesn't matter what you're going through, right? Like I feel like I've done a lot of work and I had a lot of stuff shown to me today where there's still a lot more healing. There's still a lot more that gets to happen. And so what we want you guys to understand is that the work that you do inside of the gym, inside of, your emotional, mental, spiritual health, like all of that stuff, it's always ongoing, right? And it doesn't matter. Like there's no difference in like work that you do in the gym to be the healthiest, happiest version of yourself, or work that you do inside of meditation, or work that you do inside of journaling, or like, it's always like what layer can we pull back and what can we look at? And it's not to fix it, right? Like, and sometimes with body stuff, it's like, yeah, we got to fix an imbalance. But like, what we want you guys to understand is that like, you're not broken and you don't need to be fixed. But you have certain patterns and habits and protectors and masks and all of this stuff that you've built up throughout your lifetime, whether it be in sport, whether it be in life, whether it be in whatever. And that what you get to do is start to go, what are the beliefs? What are the thoughts? What are the actions? What's going on here? And then love it, right? Love the process so that you can see this big picture of like, okay, if these things are going on in my life, in my body, etc., what do I need to do so that if the best version of me, you can't see it, if the best version of me is up here, what are the things that I need to do on all of the realms of my life, which is why we created Shift. Like this is a literal reason that we created this program, is that we worked with people that were like, well, it's just about the food, or it's just about my exercise, or it's just about this back thing I have going on. But it's never just about that, right? It's always about, well, what's going on in your life? What's happening here? Like,
Stacking.
Right. And it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have, you still need that person to help walk you through those things of like, that's what I needed today. I need someone to open that door and go, okay, what's this? What's that? Which ironically, Christy, the gal that is doing the Reiki for me, she's coming to the gym, and she came in the other day and she's like, oh, we just kind of had a stressful weekend and my neck's a little bit cramped. And I was like, she's like, I don't know what's wrong. I'm like, stress. And she's like, oh yeah, right? And so like, you can have all the knowledge in the world of how all this stuff works, but often you need somebody else to hold space for you and guide you and help you get out of your own way so that you don't go back to that habit of just pushing and just going and just doing and I'll fight through it, I'll be tough, I'll whatever. Like so many of us, like if you're a high achiever, if you're an entrepreneur, you have that attitude most likely of I can just be tough, I can just keep pushing through it, it'll all be fine, whatever. And it's actually slowing down and taking back those things and going, okay, what if I slow down right here? How does that actually accelerate my life and my performance and my results in the long run, right? Because that's the thing. What you do right now really affects your big picture. So make sure the actions you're taking today are actually in alignment. And what we've seen for so many people is that we actually need to take a step back, right? Like in shift, it's downshift, but it's the same thing in the gym. Let's look at the imbalances. Let's see what's going on physically. Let's look at what's happening. Like we need to slow down and we need to take a step back so that we can take inspired action. And 3 months from now, 6 months from now, you're on this totally different trajectory, physically, mentally, emotionally, because you took that time to actually slow down and see what was happening and have awareness and observation and curiosity. And when you do that, everything starts to open up and everything starts to be so much easier.
Two things I want to touch on is, first off, Courtney used the word broken, right? And I think this is that kind of trigger on my sense, because that's what I've seen several people on my feeds use that as like, I'm broken. Life will break you down. It will do these things, right? Like right now, Kelly Clarkson has a big song that's out, and like, you're broken, but it's kind of on that side of it. Our stance on there is you're never broken, right?
Like just broken and beautiful, right?
Yes, you're broken and beautiful, right? But you're not broken, right? Like nothing needs to be there for you. It's just life is a journey, and it's a process as we go through, and all these events have allowed you to arrive and become the person you are today, right? Like if you look at Japanese culture, like when things break, whatever it is, like they suture it back together with gold and it becomes a piece of art, right? Like so like all these things that we go through in life, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all these things, it's a process and it's a journey of life, right? And so I just wanted to touch on that because that's a thing that I think gets also thrown around on there. And yet again, words carry weight with them, and they basically dictate our experience, right? And so if I'm going around of like, my life's so broken, I've broken, and I've been there, right? Like I've literally felt like my world is falling apart, like I had it ripped out from me, all these other sentiments and language that I surrounded myself with, and feeling like I was broken, but understanding that you're not broken. You are always stronger than what you allow yourself to perceive, but it's more importantly allowing yourself to really see that that's within inside you. It just needs to be cleared out from all of the fog. The other part in there, and that reminded me of a conversation I was having with my dad yesterday. You know, my dad's gone through a lot of different elements of growth over the years. He's 35 years sober from alcohol and drugs and everything else. And, you know, we were having these conversations, you know, kind of pointing out a lot of the same things we've been talking about over the last 78 episodes of dealing with certain things. And, you know, he's on the same sense of like, you know, I really appreciate it. And it's like, well, Dad, a lot of these things, like I learned a lot of these concepts from you, and all these things that we've had a little bit different conversations about these things. But when you're in the mix of your own life, right? Like when you're in the mix of your own life and you're stuck, and Courtney used the metaphor of being in a bottle, and you're in this kind of washing machine, and just, you don't feel like you have any way out, and you're out of control, and you're in kind of that crazy 8 pattern and everything else. You can have all the knowledge in the world, right? Like you can have all the knowledge in the world, but having somebody that can help, yet again, take a look from the outside in and just really see of like, you know what, this could be the thing that's actually happening here, right? Like point it out from a different perspective. And it's like, well, you know what? That actually makes a hell of a lot more sense than the story that I was tying it to that, right? That like when you take a step back and actually like connect the dots, like, well, that makes a hell of a lot more sense, right? Like, but why couldn't I see it that way? It's because, yet again, we talked about this before, we have those cognitive biases. We have those certain things that we want to see certain things in certain ways because we start attaching stories, we start attaching identities, we start attaching our belief system around that. And so we like to see things in certain ways because of the questions that we're asking. When we're talking to people, all we're doing is asking a different question to get them to see the broad range of actually what's happening, not just fixating on the one event or the one mountain peak of which they're focusing on.
Well, and we all have protectors, right? We all have these things that show up for us, so we don't even know they're happening, right? Like, literally, like, we have protectors that we built up as kids, that it's like, okay, when this happens, if I don't feel safe or I don't know how to handle it, I do X, Y, Z, right? And those continue to show up in our life. And so it's just understanding, like, again, when we shine the light on it and you have somebody else shine the light on it from a loving place, and they go, okay, well, what about this? And you're like, oh, that's crazy, right? Like, it's just a whole different awareness. And like, the thing about the big picture is that it's a lot easier to see when you're outside of the bottle, right? When you're not in the struggle, when you're not in the hustle, when you're not in the go, when you're not in all of those things, which is why, I mean, I'm a huge fan of meditation and visualization and breath work and all of that stuff. because it gets you outside of your conscious mind, right? Like your conscious mind is trying to solve problems, and we talked about this the other day, but like you make decisions based on feelings, not from a logical mind, right? So it's so important to have someone help you get out of that space so that you can see the big picture and you can create a different vision for your life, one that maybe you don't even know is possible, but it just takes somebody else helping you open those doors and see what's actually possible so that you can step into the person that you want to be, the life that you want to have, the physical abilities you want to have, etc. Like it just takes somebody else to lovingly open the door for you. For all of us, right? We are 0% different than the rest of you. Like we have coaches, we have people that open those doors for us that help us see those things. And once you start to see it, it's just beautiful. So good.
Yeah.
All right, so that was our late night, not for probably most of you, but our late night Thursday. So
like the party's getting started. It's like when we went out for sushi the other night. We're gonna beat the crowd.
Right.
We're like, yeah, we'll get there early. We'll beat the crowd. Like showed up. Like, wow, nobody else is here. It was 4:30.
Yeah, well, it was kind of a late lunch.
It was 4:30.
But anyway, you guys, we appreciate you guys. If you want to know more about the Shift Beta program that's launching in July, let us know. If this speaks to you, if you're like, I know there's a door and I want to knock on it, but I'm a little bit afraid and I don't know what's on the other side, reach out to us. We'll have a conversation. We'll see if it's a good fit. We'd love to have you. We'd love to help you through that. Our goal is really just to help you be the best version of yourself. So appreciate you guys. If you have questions, let us know, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.